Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to today's channeled message. Today, we have been guided to speak about geoengineering, so that's going to be what is channeled today and whatever else might come through. If you're interested in knowing a little bit more about how Dianne gets her information, please see the video that I have linked in the description box, and you can read all about that. And remember that all channeling is based on the life experience and the personal lens and vocabulary of the channel. And in that way, channeling is beautiful, but it is also limited by what the channel has to work with. So always keep that in mind and take what resonates with you and leave the rest. And without further ado, I will hand it over to Dianne.
Thanks, Heather. I just want to say that they wanted to talk about geoengineering as a subject that they said that they would like to speak about today. They said because of the fact that, number one, it's very pertinent in the news right now. There's a lot going on, even though geoengineering has been something that's been ongoing for years. They feel that right now is a time when it needs to be brought up again. And they also feel that they have discussed or mentioned geoengineering or parts of geoengineering in previous sessions that we've done. And so they want to just delve into it a little more deeply. That's what they told me, that they have some information that they would just like to put out. And again, we'd like to say too that this is for all levels of spiritual growth. So some of this information may already be familiar to some of you, and some maybe something new that you haven't heard of before. So they and us just want to make sure we get cover all bases basically and get all the information out to all levels of growth, of spiritual awareness. So we want to thank you, and I'm just going to go ahead and have them speak now. Hello, everyone. We would like to start out by saying we just would like you to take a minute and imagine your planet. Picture your planet beautiful and fresh and clean, with clear air. And we want you to imagine just sitting in a quiet, beautiful place that you find to be a beautiful place, and looking around you and being in what you consider a paradise. Looking around you, breathing the air, breathing clean, pure, beautiful, fresh air that feels so pure that it's hard to even imagine air being that pure. And imagine sitting by a creek with the water just flowing and being beautiful and blue and all different colors streaming through the rocks. And imagine hearing birds chirping everywhere around you, the sounds of nature, birds chirping, bees humming, just beautiful sounds of nature around you. And looking up and seeing trees that are flourishing and green and lush and almost like they're speaking to you because they're so pure and so majestic and beautiful. If you can just take a minute and imagine that, and imagine what that would feel like to be sitting in a place like that, and knowing that that is a reality that could be. But what we want to tell you is, if things continue the way they are, that reality may not happen. There's a possibility that will never be a reality that you can see on your planet. When we speak of geoengineering, we speak of a situation that is happening on your planet now more than ever, although it's been happening for many years. It's a situation where there's a group of people that have decided that creating a planet that is filled, and we're going to be very blunt when we say this, but a planet that is filled with poisons, and a planet that is filled with chemicals, and a planet that is filled with things that are extremely unhealthy for the planet and for the people in it. These people feel that this is a necessity. They feel that this is something that they must do. And they must create this kind of world to be able to have control. This is not the planet that was meant to be. This was not the planet that was originally created. And this is not the planet that most people on the planet want to live in. So it's very important to start becoming aware of what is happening on the planet and why it is happening. And also what you can do to help yourself and to help the planet itself and the people in it on just an individual basis. So when we speak of geoengineering, that is a widespread term that has been created rather recently in your history. And it encompasses a great deal of different situations. Some people may call it chemtrails. And that is, of course, slang for chemical trails. And that is a very explicit and correct verbiage for what it is. But yet, it has a negative connotation to it. When someone hears the word chemtrails, it can be a word that creates disbelief or thinking that that is something that's made up. So the overall term of geoengineering is much more scientific and gives it, even though it is the same and it is one and the same, it gives it more substance, it gives it more reality to people who do not understand what this is. But we want to explain that this is just a program that has been put in place to create, and we want to use the word havoc in the world, in your world. It's taking, and we want to say making something out of nothing is really what's happening. And again, we go back to, as we discussed before, of the global warming situation. They want to create a world that keeps people unhealthy, because being unhealthy is a very lucrative business for some. And those that rule and have much influence on the planet want to have more influence and more money and more power. And this is a way to do that. And the chemicals that are being placed in these, as you would say, chemtrails, are being distributed all over the planet. There is no place safe anymore from this situation. And they are allowing it to happen because they feel that this is the way to have control over the people and the planet. It's a very intricate program and very deep and dark that we will not discuss at this time. But we just want to touch on the surface of that to let people know how very many levels of this there is, and how very very deep and, like we say, dark it goes. And that's important to know, but the details are not important. So we want to explain that if you look up, and this is for those that are not even aware of what we speak of, that your skies, if you're old enough on your planet to remember a time of being young, the skies, you would have crystal clear blue day skies. Sometimes without a cloud in the sky. And if there was a cloud, it would be fluffy and white and a beautiful cloud as you would sit there and look at the clouds. And see animals or see pictures in the clouds, those were real clouds. And those old enough on the planet to remember what that was like when the sun was a bright yellow in the sky. And now, as time goes on and these programs continued, as you look in the sky, you might wake up in the morning to a beautiful blue sky. But then, if you are aware and take the time to look up into the sky, you will see there's planes that are putting trails out into the sky, many at a time, sometimes. And what people on your planet call contrails is the exhaust and the vapor that comes out of the back of a plane and disappears immediately. But again, if we want to call chemtrails, which is what it is, chemical trails, are the kind that stay in the sky. And they're thick, and they don't disappear, and they don't evaporate. And you see they start dripping down, and they start coming down towards the ground. And you can look up, and if you're noticing and being aware of what it is, you can see sometimes many planes in the sky making many of these trails, until eventually, within a short period of time, the entire sky is a milky white, a very cloudy milky white. And for people who don't understand or see that happening because they're too busy in their world looking down at their phones, we want to say, or looking down because they need to do things, they need to work, they need to do whatever they need to pay attention to instead of looking up at the sky, they don't notice how this happened. They don't notice the trails that are being left, because all they notice is, oh, all of a sudden now it's a cloudy day. It used to be a sunny morning, and oh, the clouds must have come in. But they don't realize those clouds were man-made and created, and not created for a reason that benefits them. So if you become aware, we would like all to become aware of what this is and to look up in the sky, to start looking up and seeing this and noticing this if you haven't already. Many, many have. Many are aware of what this is. The programs are being put in place for many different reasons. And one of the reasons that they say that they have created these programs is to help the environment, to help the planet, to create a blockage of the sun, which they say is harmful to the planet and to the people in it. So they want to make the people believe that this is good for them, that this is a situation that is good for them and is beneficial for the planet and themselves. They talk about carbon emissions. Again, we go back to the global warming and the carbon emissions. So they want people to believe that they have created an issue of making the planet unhealthy, of putting poisons out in the planet that are man-made, but made by the people. And this is not the case. The case is most of the chemical poisons that are being put on the planet and the people are being done from the skies, are being done from the top down, not from the ground up. And this is a big difference. The carbon emissions that they speak of are of course not healthy, but they are very minute compared to the poisons that are being sprayed from the top down and are in the atmosphere now of the planet and are taking its toll on the planet. So when we ask you to imagine a beautiful, plush, gorgeous, clean air place of being, a place that you can really feel is pure and clear and clean, that could be the future. That could be the future if people understand what is happening and decide that this is not something that they are willing to accept. This is not something they are willing to have as their reality. Because the planet can be saved. The planet can rejuvenate itself. But with the poisons that are being rained down upon us on the planet, as they say, and they're showing me now, I'm saying us because they're showing me of just a vision of just this chemicals and vapors and all kinds of negative things just being poured down upon the planet and on us as people. And they're showing me that. That is not that is where the problem lies. That is where the situation comes in, where it affects everything. It affects the food you grow. It affects the water you drink. It affects the air you breathe. It affects everything. And you on your planet are at a very, very important, dire time, because the planet cannot sustain this kind of treatment for too long, as well as neither can the people. So it's very important that people understand what is happening and why it is happening. As we see the planet, we see the trees dying. And again, this is something people may not notice because they're not looking, they're not noticing, they're not looking up, those that are not aware. But you can see the tops of trees dying, turning brown, and the trees are dying from the top down. This is not a natural death of a tree. The trees are being burnt from the top down, and this is very detrimental to the planet. You may live in an area that you notice there aren't as many birds singing. There aren't as many bees flying. And you hear situations very scattered and not very prevalent in your news of there'll be a flock of birds that just fall out of the sky dead. This is due to the birds flying into, unfortunately, a gas chemical cloud, that they cannot sustain life in that situation. So it is a gradual thing, but as you look around, start noticing the quietness of the birds, the bees not flying around as they used to fly, the insects not being able to sustain this life, and the trees dying from the top down. Take notice of this and notice what is happening. And then also notice why it is happening. When you look in the sky, take notice of the sky, take notice of the planes that are shooting out these chemicals and allowing them to float down. There are many people who are aware of this situation, who are aware of what is going on, and they're doing everything they can to make others aware and to also do whatever they can personally to fight this. There are many different vitamins and minerals and things that can be done, stones that are able to fight this these poisons that can protect. So there are many different ways to look into protection, and that is something that individually each person can do to find out what they can do for themselves to be able to protect themselves from this. And right now we'd like to stop and ask if there's any questions or any comments.
Yeah, so I am just wondering so aside from just being aware and knowledgeable and just understanding that this is happening, what can be done to help or to stop it?
There are people that are forming, groups that are forming, that are very much becoming aware of the geoengineering situation. And there are those pioneers, there are pioneers out there on the planet that have decided to make this their mission, to make this their life's mission. They are putting out videos, they are putting out information, they have websites that you can start learning what this really is in detail and what can be done to help. But there are committees, there are groups of people that are gathering together to do whatever they can do. And it is really we have to say too that this is being worked on. We don't want it to seem like it's a hopeless situation. There is much hope. We hesitate to be political, but we want to say too that the people that are right now in control of your planet are doing what they need to do to end these programs. And it's very important to understand that. But it's also important to understand that this is so deep and so many levels that there are certain things that have to be done before that can happen. The funding has to be able to be stopped to be able to fund these programs. There has to be situations that are put in place to be able to stop this. So there are many people out there that say that why is this still happening? If we have a person or a group of people that are in charge of our country that supposedly cares about this country, and we're talking about the United States at this time because that is one of the main places that this was created. Although it's all over the world, but it's all tied together. All the programs are tied together into one. But looking at the United States, you say, why isn't the administration in charge doing something about this? Well, they are. They understand and they know the situation. But again, it is going to be a process of being able to go through the levels to be able to have this be able to be stopped. Everything cannot happen all at once. So there is hope and there is progress behind the scenes, so to speak, of what is happening. It is being looked at and it is being worked on, but there are other things that have to happen first for that to be able to be stopped completely. There are other ways that people individually, again, could be writing letters to their representatives, can be taking the steps of actually writing letters to their local news stations. Although that in this day and age is not necessarily something that's going to be noticed, but the more people that do this, the more people that they realize are awake to the situation. And if enough people gather together and start making a scene, so to speak, about it, then the more people wake up and notice it and start wondering what's going on, and they start looking into it, and it kind of grows. And this is what has to happen, is this information has to grow and has to just spread out far and wide, so all are aware of what's going on. And the more, again, as we speak often, all are one. Everyone is one. And when the consciousness of the planet raises to the awareness of this situation, it helps everyone. It helps the planet. It helps the people on the planet. It raises the vibration of the people and the planet. And so this is a situation of word of mouth is really a helpful tool in allowing. But we have to say too, to make people really aware of what is going on, they need to look up. They need to look up from their phones. They need to look up from the things that keep them looking down and keep them not noticing and keep them too busy to care. That has to be the first step of allowing people to be woken up to the fact of this is happening, this has been happening, and it is getting worse as time goes on, as it seems, with the way that the world is starting to wake up to this and starting to actually do something about it. But there is the opposition. There is an opposition of the, as we call them, evildoers, who are fighting this very, very strongly, because we talk about even the pharmaceutical companies. There's so many hands in this that are fighting this because it benefits them. It's beneficial to them. And it's a very, very strong, powerful opposition that wants this to keep going and wants this program to continue. And now that more people are becoming aware of what's going on, they are now geoengineering is actually being brought to the forefront and actually being talked about and actually being described as, yes, we are doing this. Yes, you are seeing these trails, you are seeing these things, but they're being done for your benefit. They're being done to save the planet. And they're going to twist it and turn it around, just like they do with the global warming. It is going to be a situation that it's going to make the people feel like, oh, they are actually saving us from demise by doing this for us. So they are doing this for us. Well, this is not necessarily the case. There are those that are doing it that don't even really know what they're doing or why they're doing it. It is their job. So you can't blame everybody, but you can look at the top of who is creating this problem. If that answers your question.
Yeah, that's very, very helpful. Yeah, that's great. And I have done a lot of research on this topic and have found a lot of really wonderful things that people can implement in their life to help sort of limit the effects of some of these heavy metals and things. So I will definitely post some of those videos from other people who have done some amazing research and have scientific, evidence and stuff as well to share for those who may be interested. We'll definitely put those in the description box for you so you can do more research. But definitely what we would like to encourage you to do is to do your own research. Looking up the word chemtrails, all that's going to come up is conspiracy stuff. But if you look up geoengineering, all of the evidence is out there. And and so is there anything else that you have to share before we...
Yeah, we do want to say too that what we say the effects of this is, we say it's detrimental. We say it's not, unhealthy. It's not good for your health. It's not, well, there's so much more. It affects your mental ability. It affects your ability to think clearly when you are breathing these chemicals in. And so it has a widespread effect on humans, and not only humans, but all of nature. Like we say, the trees, the water, the food, the animals. It's affecting everything. And again, we urge you to wake up, and we say that word meaning wake up, to look, to take notice, to start somehow taking some time in your day to think about these things and to look up and to notice and to start thinking about ways that you can counteract this and to start thinking about ways that you can protect yourself. There are ways of being able to do this. You want to find things that protect you from the poisons to the and we talk about poisons. We talk about aluminum and magnesium, and there's different chemicals and things being put, and different things that are being put, and there's experiments going on. We need to say that this is just not one thing or 5 things being put in these. There's definitely different experiments going on as to what works and what doesn't work. And you use the word guinea pig. Well, this is a good example of that, because the people on the planet are being used, and we don't want to be harsh, but we do want to say being used as guinea pigs to see the different effects and the different ways. There's some sprays that are being used to see, as an experiment, to see if tension is created. It's created is if there's if it creates disharmony amongst the people. There are things like that happening to see, can we get them to fight amongst each other? This is a big part of what's going on with the division. People may not even relate it to that. People may not even understand that that's part of this, but the things that are being sprayed down on the people and the planet are creating anger, are creating disassociation, are creating things that are actually creating what, again, they would like to have the people fighting amongst themselves, which is the best way to divide and conquer. So as we say, there's so many levels to this. There's so many experiments going on, and but it's not for the benefit of the planet or the people. So we do need to make people aware of this and to look up and to understand. First of all, the first step of this is to understand it's happening, and to understand that by seeing. We want to say by seeing with your own eyes, seeing this happening, and then start studying, and then start investigating, and start seeing what this is. That's the best way to learn and to gather knowledge for yourself as an individual, to understand what it is. But it is a matter of waking up first, and looking up and waking up and seeing what we speak of. we do want to say too that again, politically right now, this is why we really wanted to talk about the situation right now, is because there are some very, very radical ideas out there right now politically that is starting to grow and starting to become much more real. At first, people think, "Oh, this could never happen. This is so ridiculous. This will not happen." But as it starts, the consciousness starts getting into certain people, it starts growing in a negative direction too. So another thing they're talking about is working on getting rid of fossil fuels, and that again they're talking about how they're trying to make it the people's fault. The people's fault. They're using too much fuel. They're using too much gas. They're using too much coal, and so they want to definitely make that not be an excuse that it is the people's fault. It is not the people's fault, but it is more of what is being done to the people of the spraying and all the things that are being put upon them that they have no control over. So that is very, very important, and to know and to not allow this this radical idea of stopping all fossil fuels. I mean, that is just a matter of control. That is a matter of wanting to control and wanting to take away from the people, and again making it think it's for their own good, that they're doing this to save them and the planet. And that is not the reason. That is not the reason this is being done. It is being done for control, more control. And as you, as people, have less access to things that you need, like fuel and gas, the chemicals are still going to be being sprayed down. So it's not going to do anything. It's not going to help the planet at all. So you can see where this is going and what this means, and it's very important for people to be aware of this, so they can go in the right direction and take this in the right direction, and not be swayed by misinformation. And that's what we want to try to explain to everybody.
Yeah, and to just reinforce that, I would like to say that, and this is another thing to look into as well and do your own research, but free energy was invented by Nikola Tesla in the 40s, I believe, and this was suppressed. So if the powers that be are building all of these nuclear power plants after the disaster in Chernobyl and the disaster in Hiroshima or whatever in Japan, and this is affecting us. This is affecting our planet. We don't need nuclear power. We don't need any of these things. We have free energy technology, and it is not being released. So I just encourage, with a beautiful spirit, to do your own research and just take a look at this for yourself. Petrochemicals are being pushed, nuclear power is being pushed, and so there's some real cognitive dissonance there. Instead of using, their argument for saving us with these chemicals by deflecting the sun's rays, first of all, all living things survive from the sun, so that's counterintuitive. We need the sun's energy. That's how we all survive. It powers us, and so that's very important. But my point being is that there is many, many, many things that can be done. The technology is out there to clean up the planet naturally. We don't need to be dumping chemicals, especially dangerous heavy metals and nanoparticulates and things like this, down on our people, down on our planet. So, anyways, just to really drive that home is to just think about that, reflect on that, and do your own research. We're not trying to push you in any certain direction. We're just wanting to share with you information that can help you and your family.
This is very true, and this is why we wanted to start you out with being able to imagine a planet that is pure of all these chemicals and all these things that are not necessary on the planet. To remember and to understand that it can go back to this pure, beautiful, clean planet. It is doable, it is possible, but there's going to be a point of no return. And we need it to be known, and it's very urgent. That's why I wanted to speak of this, and that's why many are speaking of this right now, because it's important information to be able to be aware of it. So before we get to the point of no return, and again, there are those that are fighting the good fight and trying desperately to get us back to that place, but it's still a battle. As we spoke of before, it's a battle, it's a war, and we tell you that it still needs to be fought on many different levels. It needs to be fought on the human level, the third dimensional level, and up. So it is a battle, and it's also a battle that's being looked at by those off planet also that are watching and do not want the planet to be destroyed or poisoned to the point of no return. So it's very, very important information, and it's very important to know that there is still hope, and there's still a way that this planet can again be pure and beautiful, but we need to reverse the direction that it's going. That needs to be done for that to happen. But there is hope, and there is a way to go to that beautiful place and have this planet as we see it. We just want to say, to have the planet be able to breathe again, and live again in purity, and thus the people in it can also do the same.
Yeah, thank you. So please share this information with your friends, with your family, and with as many people as possible, so that people can be aware of this. So hopefully you enjoyed this as much as I did. I enjoyed it very much. And and if this information resonates with you and is helpful for you, please give us a thumbs up, because that'll help us to be able to reach more people. And if you would like more channeled information and content, then please subscribe as well, so that you can get notified when we do this. So that's all. Thank you so much.